Have you noticed, or probably noticed, but been puzzled by the fact that in the Gospels, often when Jesus has healed someone, quite spectacularly, he tells them not to tell anyone. Listen to this. This is one occasion. A leper came to Jesus and pleaded on his knees. "If you want to," he said, "you can cure me." Feeling sorry for him, Jesus stretched out his hand and touched him and said, "Of course I want to. Be cured." And the leprosy left him at once, and he was cured. And Jesus immediately sent him away and sternly ordered him, "Mind you say nothing to anyone, but go and show yourself to the priest and make the offering for your healing prescribed by Moses as evidence of your recovery." The man went away, but started talking about it freely, telling everyone about it, so that Jesus could no longer go openly into any town, but he had to stay outside in places where nobody lived. Even so, people came to him from all around. Well, in a way, I suppose with that one you can understand why he told him not to tell anyone. Jesus had touched a leper. That was against the law. He touched a leper, and if that was known, then he couldn't go openly into a town. He'd have to stay outside like a leper. Of course, the leper himself, as Jesus said, "Go and show yourself to the priest." Now, the priest was the sort of medical officer. Go and show yourself. Let him see that you are physically healed, give you a certificate or something. But it wasn't just on that occasion. At other times, Jesus often said, "Don't tell anyone." The reason he needed to say it was because people were so astounded by the miracle, but they missed the point. Imagine, how would the man tell them? He said, "He just touched me. Quite fantastic. Wow, it was magic." Just all like that. The wonder of it, what you might call the wow factor. Good heavens, brilliant. Even King Herod, when it came in just before Jesus died, King Herod wanted to work a miracle. The purpose of it, the reason why we hear of these healings, man 2,000 years ago, what's it got to do with us? It is showing the love and compassion of Jesus. It said he felt sorry for him. And that was the point of it. He didn't do it to show his power. He didn't do it to impress anyone. But that's what strikes us. We miss the whole point of it. The main point is the enormous compassion he had for somebody suffering. Again and again, and the story of when he came across a funeral of a young man who died, and his mother was a widow, left totally on her own. And he said he felt so sorry for her. The nearest translation we can get in English is he's heartbroken. The word they had in the Gospel, in the Greek, meant his guts were churned up. That's the way they thought of it. His stomach. He was just physically moved. This is God becomes human, and if you want to interpret God in a human way, this is God. When Lazarus died, he was in tears. And in the Holy Land, overlooking Jerusalem, there's a small church called Dominus Flavit. The Lord wept. That's what it means. Because they reckon it's the part when Jesus came to Jerusalem. He loved Jerusalem. That was his city. And when he saw what was going to happen to them because they were going to reject the opportunity, he was in tears. He wept. He was upset. Even when he saw the crowds, I wonder what he would think today. He saw the crowds who were let down by their priests. He said he felt sorry, he felt for them. So again and again, the word comes up and people pass over it. He felt sorry for him and he touched him. And you hardly notice the word, he felt sorry for him. And he touched him, stretched out and touched him, because the man couldn't come near to him. I don't suppose he just touched him with the tip of his finger. Put his arms round. Do you realize, no one had touched that man for months or years. He was a leper. What it felt like to have someone who loves you to touch you when nobody ever could. This is God's feeling for us, and this is the meaning of the miracles, the meaning of the healing. Not to show power, not spectacular. T.S. Eliot has a lovely phrase. We had the experience but missed the meaning. An approach to the meaning restores the experience in a different form. If you can understand the healing, the first time that man had been shown affection and love and concern, because for the people at that time they thought leprosy was a punishment for sin. But we get caught up, they did, and we did. Remember, even towards the end of his life, the apostles hadn't got the message. Are you going to restore the kingdom? Meaning get rid of the Romans and that sort of thing. Not understanding the kingdom is one of love. That is the real healing. I'm speaking to you today on the 11th of February, which is the feast of Our Lady of Lourdes. In 1858, on the 11th of February, Our Lady appeared to Bernadette. Now, since then, there have been spectacular miracles verified by the medical profession. But that's not the point. If you've been to Lourdes, you'll see the great wonderful miracle is this. People go there and without being physically cured, get a hope and a joy and a point of living that they never dreamt of. I've seen it again and again. And if you go through Lourdes, and you might say, all these poor people, and if you said that, they say, no, the Lord is here. And they want to come back again and again for the experience of the touch of God. A friend of mine went to Medjugorje. I haven't been there, I don't know it enough. So I said to her, well, doesn't the sun spin and that sort of thing? And she said, oh, that's it. It's okay. I went, yeah, but don't get caught up on that. She said, I had an experience of prayer and closeness of God. And this is what they have at Lourdes, and this is what we find from Jesus' healing. Not just healing, but many other things that we take for granted. Yesterday I baptized a baby, tiny little baby, 5 weeks old. Already a personality. A year ago, she didn't exist. Nobody loved her. She didn't love anyone. But the gift to her mother and father, Rochelle and Liam, better than him. What a gift. Now you could say, oh, isn't nature wonderful? No matter, isn't nature wonderful? Isn't God loving to give us this? Instead of just create, he chose them to be her mother and father. Isn't that wonderful? He chose them to create her. Oh, I know God creates everything, but through them. Or you could look at it and say, oh yes, haven't we done well? It reminds me of a book I came across once called Cat and Dog Theology. Dog theology. If you have a dog or a puppy, the dog looks at you and if he could speak would say, you love me, you house me, you nourish me, you take me for walks, you really look after me. You must be God. And the cat gives the impression of looking up at you and saying, you really love me, you look after me, you take care of me, you open the door and let me out. I must be God. You could bring up a child and say, haven't we done well? Or you could look at the child and say, thank God for what God has given us. And if you don't, you have the experience or you miss the meaning. I live in a place where there are beautiful sunsets. It's by the sea. Because the sun happens to be at a certain angle and there's dust in the air, you get a sunset which really moves your heart. Beautiful. I thank God for that. We've a number of Celtic blessings. The Celtic folk tend to be agricultural and they found God in nature. And sometimes I imitate that. I turn the lights out so that I can see the stars. In the silence of the stars, in the quiet of the hills, in the heaving of the sea, speak to us, Lord. Allow the Lord to speak to you. Everything could remind us of the Lord. I say Celtic blessings. The Celts used almost everything to find God. Do you still say grace before meals? Thank God for what you're going to eat. When we were kids, we always had a prayer before we ran out to play. We said it quickly and ran out. But the Lord was guiding us and looking after us. Otherwise, I say you have the experience but miss the meaning. Now, if you turn to the real meaning, the experience takes on a new pattern. Looking at a child, thanking God for God's goodness, instead of just saying a beautiful child. Thank God for what we've been given. Use anything in your life to turn to God and say thank you. And thanksgiving is a becoming awareness of the goodness and love of God. God became human, and to express the divinity, he felt human compassion and feeling for people, heartbroken when they were hurt, full of love and joy when he met them. In the silence of the stars, in the quiet of the hills, in the heaving of the sea, speak to us, Lord. In the voice of a friend, in the babbling of children, in the words of a stranger, speak to us, Lord. In opening a book, in conversation with friends, in listening to music, speak to us, Lord, for your servants are listening. Amen.